I'll be discussing this with Dumebi Oluwole. She's manager, financial derivatives company. Hi, Dumebi. Good morning.
Good morning, Ini. Great to be here.
Good to be here. So, I mean, it does seem somehow like a contrast where we see macroeconomic numbers looking good. We saw PMI from about 51.7 in August to 54 in September. That shows that, production is good, orders are increasing, and yet we continuously see not so good numbers from the micro sector, and now the World Bank seems to be confirming that with the number of poverty, which has gone up, even though the federal government disagrees. But I mean, it's the World Bank we are talking about right here, so there's a lot of credibility that comes with the number that the World Bank. So what do you see in this? Is it still that gap that we talk about of it streaming from the macro to the micro? Is that why, or do we need some more social welfare drives, to bring the benefits down to people?
So I'll start off by saying that it is very true, in terms of the transmission mechanism, pretty much. It's always very true that you see economic growth numbers looking very positive, and the actual economic development benefits, people are not feeling it just as yet, and that's because of the time lag. When you see that, say, output is increasing from, say, the agricultural sector, the key microeconomic indicator you would use to gauge that is, number one, what are food prices saying? Number two, can people actually afford at the level at which prices are? And number three, the farmers producing this food items, how exactly is their living standards? And when you break it down to look at those kinds of indicators, those kinds of socioeconomic indicators, you will see that, number one, let's even use agriculture as an example, right? Farmers' incomes have not yet significantly increased. And that's because right now we still see a lot of issues around insecurity. We still see issues around access to input materials at relatively cheaper prices. And you also see issues around market prices where they planted the seed at higher cost and they're selling at a lower cost. So what does that mean for their income? What does that mean for their standard of living, right? So when you look at those nuanced microeconomic numbers, you still see that it is taking a very long time, or not very long, but it is taking some time for the positive economic numbers that we are seeing to translate to better living standards and welfare. Beyond that, you also see that we haven't seen significant improvements in the health and education sector, and those are key microeconomic numbers also, that tell us how the socioeconomic landscape looks like. A very good example, you see primary healthcare centers, for instance, right? Those are supposed to be the micro level of access to healthcare for the people within the grassroots. How well are these healthcare centers equipped? How easy is it for people to make use of these centers? Are they up to standard? Do they provide the best healthcare? Because those are also measures of living standards beyond the income that these people are making. Number three, you look at the living wage, right? Convert it to US dollars and then break it down on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, to see actual wage of these individuals. And you see that they are still earning below $3 per day. And so what that tells us is that while on a broader level, the economic recovery, is beginning to happen, the macros are improving, it is taking some time, for it to translate to better living standards. And to be very honest, it will still take some time. Why? Because of the structure of the economy that we are currently experiencing in Nigeria. And that's very typical in frontier markets where you see positive, macro numbers, and it takes a longer time, with actually between 6 to 24 months for you to see that upbeat momentum in GDP per capita, in better living standards.
But I wonder how Ghana did it, Dumebi. This year we saw Ghana's inflation at 23 points in January. As we speak, Ghana's inflation is at 9%. Now it goes beyond that. When you have, at least the conversation I've had with Ghanaians living in Ghana, and they say they actually feel the impact of that reduction in inflation. How did they do it? What can we learn from them?
So we have to start from the fact that the changes you're seeing today in Ghana didn't start this year. They started since the beginning of 2024. As a matter of fact, the end of 2023. where they started making changes towards fiscal consolidation.
Our reform started when? 2023?
Well, not exactly. Not exactly. The announcement of the reform started in it was announced in 2023. The major moves that we did see, especially from the monetary policy sector, from the central bank, started really kicking in at the mid of 2024. And then the fiscal reforms in itself, we started seeing the major impact of that in 2025.
Okay.
So when you look at the timelines, to see, okay, how quickly are these changes, impacting the lives of people? And I'll put a very good example. Let's look at the power sector. We saw an increase in electricity tariffs from 2023 entering 2024. How stable has a power supply been, even with the Band A system? So what that tells us is, while we're seeing changes, it will take some time for things to fully stabilize and for us to see that significant uptake in living standards. But one thing I do want to mention is we are on the right path. It is taking some time for the average Nigerian to really feel the impact of these reforms and the changes that we should expect to see in terms of an increase in your actual living wage and how that translates to a better life for you. And like I said, it goes beyond the actual income that you earn. It is in the spending power, it's in the access to basic essentials like healthcare, proper education, which are still very much lacking, in the Nigerian society today. So not until we see like a significant uptick in those socio-economic, development indicators, we will still continue to have these conversations. So whether or not the numbers from the World Bank are being contested, the truth is the average Nigerian still doesn't feel better off as of today. And not until these changes are made significantly to their income levels, like what they earn and how much they can buy in the market, and two, the actual living standards that they experience. Am I able to pay my rent from the income that I'm earning? Am I able to go to supermarkets to buy what I really want to buy? Or do I have to do save as you, buy now, pay later, or
buy
save
now, pay later
before I can acquire a fridge? Before I can acquire a
but
fridge,
maybe what do you say to the perspective that if we had less leakages in government, states, local, federal, these benefits we're looking for in the life of the people, the distance would have been shortened?
Yeah, of course, very much so. It's one of the conversations I think I have very often in terms of the trust deficit between the people and the government. And I will say this very strongly. It's very uncanny to say that people are living a certain level of life, and the people that are in the position of authority to actually serve and protect these people are living way better than the people that they're there to serve. There is that dissonance will always be there. If the people that are the grassroots do not feel like you understand or you can relate to the problems that they feel on a daily basis, you're driving an SUV and every month it is almost changed, or every year it's changed. The average Nigerian cannot afford a car.
Cannot afford public transport.
Cannot afford steady. Let's use Uber rides, right? With how expensive they have gotten, right? The average Nigerian can't afford that. So you coming to them with an SUV, they can never believe you understand the struggles that they face on a daily basis. And not until public policy officials begin to acclimatize with the problems that the average Nigerian face, that trust deficit will always be there. And the leakages in government, and I have said this before, it starts with a mindset shift. Economic development goes beyond the policy changes that we're making that will support investor appetite or even business confidence. It goes beyond all of that. There has to be a mindset shift that trickles down from the top of the chambers to the bottom. And what that looks like in practice is you have the federal government, then you have the state governments, you have the ministries and agencies, you have the Senate, you also have the local government. So if at the local government level, there is a miscommunication and there's not a significant change in the mindset of how people should be served at that level, then that trust deficit will always be there. The monies that people are supposed to experience, the kind of infrastructure they're supposed to get, and I mentioned primary healthcare centers, that's not the job of the federal government. So if at that level, from the state government to the Senate to the local government, things cannot be corrected at that level, then how much more can the federal government do to ensure these changes happen? So there has to be a complete mindset shift. And that starts by the public policy officials understanding the reason why they are there. in the first place, and the people actually also holding them accountable.
Perhaps the National Orientation Agency should start work with with the government first. Well, thank you so much, Dumebioluwole. We didn't get to talk about commodities, but just give us an idea what's going on with commodities prices.
We're seeing prices decline, which is good ahead of the festive season. So now is the time we're seeing a lot more demand, spring up from people. People are beginning to stock up, and we expect that trend to continue. Ahead of the festive season, prices might rise. So for significant commodities like tomatoes, peppers, cooking oil, rice. Those are commodities that people typically demand for, and so we likely see an increase in demand heading towards those periods.
All right, thank you so much, Dumebioluwole, manager at Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you for having me.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we're staying with commodities, especially when you talk about agro-industrial, and this company has been making some strides at this time. We'll talk about that with the Chief Executive Officer of that company. I'll keep it a secret until we come back from the break. Please stay with us.